Welcome, please be seated. What a wonderful night. I'm Steve Miles, Provost of New College, and it's my great pleasure to welcome everyone to our 2014 commencement. First, let me extend a special greeting and word of thanks to the parents and family of graduating students. Without your support and encouragement, not to mention your tuition payments, your sons and daughters could not have succeeded and reached this important moment in their lives. Speaking to the New College faculty, there is no way to exaggerate your impact on these graduating students, and I'm sure that their appreciation for your dedication will only grow in years to come. I'd also like to thank the staff of New College, the New College Board of Trustees, the New College Foundation, and all of those who have contributed financially to New College, enabling us to offer our unique educational program to the students and to play a vital role in the intellectual and cultural life of our region. And now, I'd like to offer a word to the real VIPs tonight, the graduating class of 2014. When you arrived here some 4, 5, or 6 years ago, you sat through orientation sessions at which we offered a glimpse of what you were about to experience at New College. We spoke passionately of our contract system, extolled the virtues of small classes and tutorials, waxed poetic about the values of liberal arts education, and hoped that we could capture your attention before you discovered the glories of Palm Court parties. We even use such terms as transformative to describe the new college experience. I know it's a little gushy, but we like to lay it on thick. But here's the irony. I'm quite sure that each of you has been transformed by your experience at New College in ways that you could scarcely have imagined 4 years ago. By working closely with faculty mentors and giving yourself wholly to the process, you discovered your passion, not just for a subject, but for learning itself. You also saw how learning is inseparable from ethics and a deep concern for others and for the world. This was something that was so evident yesterday at New Scholars New College, our festival of student research. Your presentations showed more than a desire to understand the world. It's clear that you want to have an impact on the world around you. And as Bertolt Brecht said, change the world, it needs it. We know that you will do just that. I'd like to, at this time, to introduce those who join me on the platform. Moving counterclockwise from my left, Associate Professor of Chemistry, Chair of the Faculty, and New College Marshal, Dr. Suzanne Sherman. Vice President of Finance and Administration, Mr. John Martin. Vice President for Advancement, Ms. Shannon Duvall. Professor of Chemistry and Chair of the Natural Sciences Division, Dr. Paul Scudder. President of the New College Alumni Association, Ms. Susan Spasnikoff. Dean of Studies and Associate Professor of English, Dr. Robert Zamsky. Dean of the Jane Bancroft Cook Library, Dr. Brian Doherty. Dean of Enrollment Services and Information Technology, Ms. Kathleen Killian. Our Registrar, Ms. Marta Moreno. Professor of History and Chair of the Division of Social Sciences, Dr. David Harvey. Professor of Spanish Language and Literature and Chair of the Division of Humanities, Dr. Jose Alberto Portugal. Dean of Students, Mr. Tracy Murray. Chairman of the New College of Florida Board of Trustees, Mr. William Johnston. Our commencement speaker, Jennifer Granick. And finally, completing his second year as president of New College, Dr. Don O'Shea.
Hi, folks. Let me add my welcome to Steve's. So welcome graduating students, other students, parents, family, friends. Welcome faculty and staff. And a special welcome to the trustees of the college and the directors of the New College Foundation. We are so pleased to have you all here. I wanted to say a couple of words about this graduating class, just to put it in a kind of context. Like former graduating classes, they're a pretty distinguished lot. Everyone has completed and defended a substantive piece of intellectual or creative work. They have stood up and taken a position. We are very proud of them. That's you guys. New College is about individuals, students, and faculty. But numbers and statistics tell stories too. We have 144 graduates today. They comprise a tiny fraction of the more than 50,000 baccalaureate degree recipients this year in Florida, and an even tinier fraction of the 1.8 million bachelor degrees that will be awarded this year in the United States. The odds of winning a Fulbright are less than 1 in 1,000. There are 5 Fulbright winners in this class of 144. And 4 alternates. The odds of winning a Goldwater are 1 in 10,000. There are 2 in this class of 144. The odds of winning a Truman Scholarship are 1 in 30,000. There is one in this class. The odds of winning a Frost Fellowship are 1 in 3,000. There are 2 in this graduating class. Now, there's an embedded mathematics problem in this, but I'll tell you, whatever the answer you get, this is very, very unlikely that this would have happened by chance. So thank you, graduates. Thank you, faculty. That's, in business parlance or whatever, it's a 7 or 8 sigma event, and it happens every year here at New College. So, thanks. Let me turn now to our speaker. Our speaker knows well what our students are feeling this evening. Jennifer Stisek-Granick graduated from New College in 1990. Along the way, reading William Faulkner novels for an ISP, repeating a pen and ink drawing class that she failed and got it right the second time, and writing a senior thesis under Professor Jean Lewis entitled The Horrible Game. The thesis used game theory to examine the bureaucracy. All this left her mother so concerned about young Jennifer's job prospects that she had Jennifer, while completing her thesis no less, take a touch typing class at Manatee Community College. Mom needn't have worried. After leaving New College, Granick moved to San Francisco, went to law school, and the rest is history. Today, I don't know if it was the touch typing class or the or New College or something. Today, she is one of the world's leading experts in law and civil liberties in the internet age. You can read the details of her career in the commencement program, so I won't go through them. This evening, we look forward to hearing from her, but first, New College will award her the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws. It's the first such award in the college's history. I'm going to read the citation. So, Jennifer Granick, lawyer, activist, scholar, civil libertarian. When you graduated from New College in 1990, Tim Berners-Lee was still perfecting HTML, and the World Wide Web was a year in the future. When you graduated from University of California's Hastings College of Law in 1993, the first web browser was just emerging. You came into adulthood with the web, or rather, it came into adulthood with you. You've called the internet the greatest liberation technology humankind has ever known, and you've devoted yourself to ensuring that it remains so. You've pointed out that it is no accident that the internet matured in a nation with our particular Bill of Rights. This unruly child of academics, researchers, and hackers, funded by defense, big science, and donated time, is now the greatest economic engine in human history. The internet is the landscape on which the futures of our democracy and others are being shaped. You have fought and won major battles in the areas of computer crime, governmental and commercial control, cybersecurity, and privacy. You refuse to be pigeonholed. You have defended hackers and not. You have excoriated governments and not. And you've won exceptions to laws that overreach. But constant is your unflinching commitment to our civil liberties. We admire you for it, and we are grateful to you. So, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of New College of Florida, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, with all its customary rights and privileges. Jennifer.
Gonna try to keep dressed up here. That's for later. I went here. I am so honored to be here speaking at this school, which is the place where, for all intents and purposes, I really grew up. And it wasn't just the stuff that I learned in class. It was also the stuff that I learned outside of class, from my fellow students, from around here, and from dancing in Palm Court. I came from suburban New Jersey, so this was the first time I ever really learned about South Africa and apartheid from songs that we would listen to. This is the first time that I learned that if you free your mind, your ass will follow. Or perhaps it's the other way around. It works both ways. This is the first time I heard songs about loving someone till your heart stops. And this is where I found what my vocation would be, which is really studying systems of power and when they enable liberty and when they cross the line into oppression. And believe it or not, it was actually the walkway over 41 that was where I first started thinking about this issue. So before I got here, a long time, when school just started, they didn't have that overpass. And if students wanted to go from the dorm side of campus to the bay side of campus, you just had to cross 41 and deal with the traffic, and that was pretty dangerous. So what the administration did was they built that overpass. And what students told me when I arrived here is that in the first few years of the overpass, instead of going on the overpass across 41, students would climb on the outside of the overpass and kind of tightrope their way across 41. So before I go on, let me make something very clear. This is a very bad idea. Do not do it. Do not get me in trouble. Okay. But the summer before I arrived, what happened was the powers that be at the school arranged for some big spiky trees to be planted at the point where students had been climbing up on the overpass wall. And so when I got here, because of those trees, I never imagined that I would ever climb on that wall or do that. The path to that option, both my ability to see it and my ability to do it, had been physically blocked by design and cut off. And the only reason I knew that it had ever been an option was because other students had told me so. And so without any fanfare or imposing any rules, nobody was climbing on the overpass anymore, and that got me thinking about power. I thought that I had choices to cross the street or walk on the overpass. But those choices were constrained by decisions that had been made on high without me knowing and were invisible to me. There was another option, which was to walk on the overpass and balance beam across. And we couldn't even imagine that possibility anymore. Now, in this case, it was for the best. But the point was that there was a decision that had been made for us and had been removed from our possibilities, and we didn't even know about it. And as Gene Lewis would say to us when I took classes with him later on, and he was my thesis advisor, he would say, "You think you're free because you have a choice between chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry." So this power play was so clear to me because there was an example like went the opposite way over at the pool. And at the pool, there was a diving board and there was a sign on the wall, and the sign said, "No riding bikes off high dive." I know. Now, it would have never even entered my mind that that was something that I might do, but there was a rule against it, and as a result, I felt oppressed. So I saw two models of power here. The tree that intentionally constructed my behavior in socially acceptable ways without my even knowing it, and the pool sign that explicitly demanded my obedience and threatened punishment, but against which there was the possibility of rebellion. And what I found is that in many of the difficult questions that I have dealt with in my career, the answers, finding the right answer, is made more difficult by these subtle exercises of power. It makes it harder for us to choose and find the right thing to do. One of New College's mottos is, "Every student is responsible in the last analysis for his or her own education." And taking responsibility for my education here is what helped me to take responsibility for my career later on. But nevertheless, I continued to see these limitations in my life. So after law school, instead of going to a law firm and doing those kinds of cases, I decided to work for the California Public Defender's Office fighting death penalty cases. Thank you. I hate the death penalty. And I have to say, when I field tested this speech before other audiences, they said, "Are you sure you want to be so strong about it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to just say that." To me, it's the ultimate expression that in our society, nothing is sacred for us to be able to kill each other. So I thought my job at the California Public Defender's Office was the most important thing I could possibly be doing with my life, and that was really important to me. But what I found was that the actual work required just requesting records and like getting school records, medical records, jail records, all this stuff, and compiling them and hoping that we would find something in all these records that maybe we could make into a case that maybe we could say would be a legal argument that maybe would save somebody's life. And so what I found was that this work was incredibly painstaking. Somebody's life was on the line, yet it was achingly boring and unbelievably terrifying at the same time. I couldn't do it. I hated that job. And I had to admit that the thing I thought I was going to spend my whole life doing wasn't right for me. And I needed to find something else to do. And I needed to figure out, what am I going to do if I'm not going to do the most important thing? I felt kind of selfish. Eventually, though, I realized that there are other important things to do. In fact, there are millions of important things out there to do. And the thing is to try to find something that suits your abilities, suits your skills, suits your aptitude, and suits your happiness as well. Work is really, really important, but it is not everything. So I decided I was going to try criminal trial work, and in order to learn that, because I hadn't done that, I couldn't get a job at the Public Defender's Office that year. They weren't hiring. So I had to teach myself, learn how to do this kind of work. And so what I would do is I would pick cases and work on them for free, the stuff I was interested in. And one of my biggest cases literally was related to critical mass. And for those of you who don't know, critical mass is, it happens in a lot of cities around the country, and it's a last Friday of the month, this sort of impromptu bicycle ride where people ride their bikes and ride home from work or ride around. And the motto of critical mass is, "We are traffic." The idea is bike riding's not special, we ride just like cars, we're traffic too. The goal, if a sort of anarchist thing like this can be said to have a goal, is to make the streets safer for cyclists and sort of have an equal treatment with cars. And in San Francisco, where I live, the events had been getting more and more contentious and more raucous. So in June of 1997, our mayor, Willie Brown, had said, "No more critical mass." So this was the edict on high, like the pool sign. "Thou shalt not ride your bike." But how can you really stop that And it seems like nature conspired against Mayor Brown because that last Friday in June was this uncharacteristically beautiful weather. For those of you who have ever been to San Francisco in the summer, you know it's freezing. Well, not this day. It was sunny and beautiful. And over 5,000 cyclists came out for a critical mass and just clogged the streets. Cars couldn't get anywhere, the bicyclists were everywhere, people were hooting and hollering, there were costumes. It was totally berserk, and it was completely awesome. Nobody could get home, except the bikes, nobody could get anywhere. So at one point, the police decided to clear this intersection. They arrested about 100 people, and then in various other places around the city, there were some altercations with the police officers, and a few people got arrested for battery on a police officer. Okay. So I volunteered to be pro bono lawyer for all of the people who got arrested, and that I was going to try to help them. So this was great because, remember, these people are like bicycling anarchists, critical mass, and I don't ride, you know, so never mind off the high dive. So I remember going to the meetings to meet with them and parking 3 blocks away and hiding my car keys and like kind of sneaking in, like pretending like I walked there because I didn't want them to know that I was, you know. So we battled those cases, and we won acquittals, or got the charges dismissed for everybody in the case. So this is a great example. I like to win. It's made it really fun. But more importantly than that, one of the things that was really important was I realized the reason why I liked this case so much was because I liked helping the bikes, and the reason why I liked helping the bicyclists was because they were telling us something really important. They were saying, you think that this has to be a city with streets clogged with smoggy, honking cars, but it doesn't. This could be a city with quiet, clean streets filled with people happily riding their bikes together. And today in San Francisco, that's what it's like. San Francisco's closed Main Market Street to traffic, but not to bicycles. We have these huge green bike lanes there. It took 15 years. It took battling the mayor's office and disregarding the rules. And it took working with the political establishment, too. San Francisco, and it took a long time, and there's still a ways to go, but San Francisco is all the better for it. There's other ways that San Francisco's changed, too. We now have an artisan ice cream place in the Mission District that makes a flavor of ice cream called Secret Breakfast. It's bourbon with cornflake cookies in it, and it is delicious. There is more to life than chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. Things get better. It takes time, but things change for the better. So for me, I needed to learn what I was doing, and one of the men who I had been volunteering for people and doing work for them, and one of the guys said, well, you know, you should really develop a white-collar specialty so that you can make some money. So I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good. I think my specialty will be computer hacking, because I thought computer hackers were really cool, and I liked computers, and I thought, well, it's white-collar, so. So what I would do is I would work on these multi-defendant cases with these other more experienced lawyers, and these older attorneys, mostly men, saw the opportunity to push the work off on me. And they would make me do the research, write the briefs, talk to the clients, and then they would put their names on the briefs and get paid, and I would be working for free. Now, most of my law school friends, who are also young and starting their careers and looking for work, thought that it was demeaning to work for free. And, you know, as a young woman, it could feel particularly insulting to be treated like this by these older men, and like I was the secretary or associate and not equal on the case. But as a result of doing this, I learned. And when I was done with these volunteer efforts, I knew how to run a big case. I understood the computer crime law. I knew how to write motions, and I had a whole bunch of friends, these older attorneys, who I could ask if I needed help on any kind of thing. And they knew that I was the one to ask if you needed any expertise on computer crime. I learned by this way. Now, I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't worry about money and you should just work for love. That I was privileged, and not everybody has that privilege, and not everybody can do that. But you know, what I am saying is that in the beginning of your career, you will work the longest hours, you will make the least money, and you will receive the least recognition. Take these assignments strategically and with good humor. Paying your dues is a way to learn and to make a name for yourself. In short, have self-respect, but do not be proud. So it's good that I didn't need a lot of money, because it turned out that computer crime really doesn't pay. You've got to do crimes that like rich people do, and then it's a lucrative white-collar specialty. But that's not what happened for me. But I nevertheless continued to work for computer hackers, and the reason is because, and at the time I started doing this, my boss at Stanford wouldn't let me say on the website that I represented computer hackers, because the word hacker at the time was synonymous with criminal in her mind. But what I understood, and what I think people understand today, is that hackers are people who are able to look around themselves and to see things that other people don't see. It also happens to be that sometimes they see things that the powers that be don't want them to see. And here's an example. So in 2005, a 24-year-old guy named Michael Lin was working for a company that studied internet routers. Now, for people who don't know, internet routers are the machines that basically carry your messages across the backbone of the internet. And Mike discovered a flaw in Cisco routers, one of the major brands, that would allow you to basically make it stop working and never be able to start it again. So this was pretty innovative, because he was the first person who ever found that a software flaw affected these hardware devices. And it was also a big deal, because if you can just shut down routers on the internet, then the internet will break. As Mike said, this was a way to gain world domination. Then a little cackle afterwards. And he thought people should know about this problem, so he was going to speak to researchers at an annual conference in Las Vegas, which is called Black Hat, which is a computer security conference, kind of mainstream. So basically what he was going to say is, guys, you can't really see it from here because you haven't taken a close look, but I have. And just on the other side of this spiky tree, there is a path to world domination. But then his employer got cold feet. It turns out they had contracts with Cisco, and Cisco didn't want people to know about this problem. So the employer ordered Mike to change his topic and not give the speech. And in the days leading up to the conference, Cisco paid for the Black Hat CDs. Remember those CDs you used to be able to put in your computer? To all those to be reprinted, and for the program to have the pages that had Mike's talk basically physically cut out of the program by temp workers. Mike thought that keeping quiet was wrong. He was afraid that no one would know what he had found except for bad guys. He was afraid that no one would know they needed to update their routers in case a real Black Hat hacker discovered the same flaw and sought world domination. And he felt that the Cisco flaw was too dangerous for people not to know that they needed to protect themselves from it. So he got on stage at Black Hat in a tent, much like this one actually, and he pulled a white baseball hat out of his pocket, and he put it on his head, and across the front of it in black letters it said, "Good." You get it? White hat, good guy. And then he said, "I quit my job," and he gave the original talk, telling people about this flaw. People were pretty excited, except for his employer and Cisco, who were pretty pissed. So they sued him for copyright infringement, and they sent some FBI agents to interview him. I was at dinner with my parents when I got the call from this, and I ran from dinner with my parents to the conference room floor to try to get there before the FBI got to Mike and started questioning him. If the police come to question you, do not talk to them without a lawyer present. That's another speech. But the thing that you have to know about this event is that after 3 sleepless days and nights, we finally settled the case and convinced the United States Attorney's Office not to pursue criminal charges against Mike. Now, when I usually think about this event, what I think about is how hard it was on Mike. It was really stressful. And I think about how annoyed I was at copyright law, that it even could possibly entertain a case like this. And I think about how bad I felt that I missed dinner with my parents. But when I was preparing for today and I was sitting in my office, I looked over at the bookshelf and I remembered something else. I remembered that later in that conference, there's a hacker conference associated with Black Hat called DEF CON, which is a real hacker conference. And I was giving a talk there about the law, and I was on stage lecturing the audience. And while I was talking, these 3 guys jumped up on stage and interrupted me. And they said, "Stop the talk. Because of what you did for Mike, because you helped him, we made this for you." And they unfurled this. It was a shower curtain from the conference hotel, which was a sort of janky little off-strip Vegas hotel. And they had put black letters on it that said "good" on it, and they stapled a little feather boa around it. And then they wrapped this janky, mildewy shower curtain from the 20-year-old off-strip Vegas hotel around my shoulders. And they were like, "Thank you." And I was like, this is so awesome. But I almost forgot it. And if I hadn't had that ratty shower curtain on the shelf in my office, I might have forgotten that part of the story. And so what I'm saying here is, don't forget your successes. You should try, and you will fail. And it's good to fail, and it's good to learn from your failures. But hold your successes at least as close, if not closer to you, as you do the times that you don't succeed. So in 2001, I had a chance to go to Stanford and work on internet law, which I thought would be a great opportunity because this was chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, secret breakfast, froyo, and everything all together. There were no rules really back then, and I was like, this is an opportunity to really make a difference. And as President O'Shea said earlier, I love the internet. 500 years ago, Gutenberg invented the printing press, and we went from a place where people would have to travel miles to reach a library with just a very few handwritten books in it, to a place where there were over 15 million books in circulation in 42 years. That's awesome, but it has nothing on the internet. Most of what's happened on the internet's happened in the past 5 or 10 years, and it's revolutionized our lives several times over. People use it to deliver pizzas and to deliver medical care in Africa. We use it to talk with our friends on social networks, and Nigerian mothers have used Twitter to wake up the world to the plight of their kidnapped daughters after the Nigerian government told them to be quiet and not make the country look bad. In my mind, the internet has been an unimaginable public good, increasing knowledge, interconnectivity, prosperity, education, political activism, in short, liberty. And yet, it is also a fantastic tool for government surveillance. When you use the internet or mobile phones or other interconnected devices, the machines send information about you to the service providers. When you carry a mobile phone, it means that somebody can call you anywhere you are on the planet, and we know where you are. When you log on to the digital network, it means a number is assigned to you that can be used to find out who you are. When you reveal your personal information to your friends on social networks, that same information can be used by advertisers or disclosed to the government. There's drones, facial recognition technology, automatic license plate detectors. Sensors are everywhere, and everything we do is increasingly observable. That is the world that we live in today. And yet our laws are from the 70s and 80s, before this technology was even invented. You guys understand the ramifications of this technology better than we do. You were raised with the internet, and you grew up with it in meaningful ways. You know that privacy isn't about having something to hide, it's about autonomy, maybe just a few years ago you put a sign on your bedroom door telling your parents to stay out. You're concerned about whether photos of you at the PCP will impair your employment possibilities later on. And you look around at the world that my generation and the generations before mine have given you, and you see the need for political change, whatever it is that your issue may be. You understand that sometimes change requires a certain amount of activism, maybe even radicalism. And you know that our world may still need a Cesar Chavez or a Dr. Martin Luther King, and that the ability of the government to squelch those kinds of people, if you have all the information about everyone, is far too great. And yet, the United States government is taking strong advantage of these new technologies by collecting billions of pieces of information on hundreds of millions of people, both Americans and non-Americans, every month. This kind of mass surveillance was, until recently, either technologically impossible or economically infeasible. Now, for me, there's a particular pain to this, because I'm a lawyer. And the reason why, one of the reasons why, this surveillance is happening is because there's a secret court that makes secret rulings about what the laws say. A few of these secret rulings have been revealed thanks to the disclosures from Edward Snowden. And so now, thank you. And so now we know a little bit more about what our laws are. And what we see is that some of these opinions just defy common sense, where statutes that allow collection of information if it's relevant to an authorized investigation are being used to collect information about every American's domestic phone calls. And yet many of the opinions are still classified and still top secret. I'm a Fourth Amendment scholar, and the Fourth Amendment says that people shall be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. I have worked on, it's one of my favorite amendments, it's true. I've worked on this stuff for 21 years, and I'm an internet lawyer. But if you ask me, how does the Fourth Amendment apply to email? The only honest answer I can give you is I don't know. In fact, almost nobody knows, because there are secret court opinions that nobody outside the government has seen, which control how and what they do with our digital communications. The very idea of secret law in a democracy deeply offends me. It's like there's a sign with the rules on it. This is the Fourth Amendment, these are the surveillance statutes. And we think those are the rules. And we argue over whether those rules are good or bad, what should we do, does this help freedom, does this help security? But those aren't the real rules. Actually, elsewhere, there are other secret rules written down, and those are the rules that really matter, and we don't know what they are. And we didn't even think to look for them, because we thought the rules written on the sign were the real rules. But behind the spiky tree, there's a whole nother set of real rules. That's where the real power is actually held and executed. More than that, we do not know how the government uses the information it collects on us. In the 1960s, when the FBI bugged Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s hotel room, it found evidence of him having extramarital affairs. And it took that evidence and wrote Dr. King and his wife a letter, which was a blackmail letter that basically threatened him to step down from public life if he didn't kill himself. At least that's the way Dr. King read the letter, and you can read the letter for yourself. It's in the National Archives. You think about that with today's amount of information and what the government would know, not just about Martin Luther King Jr., but about all of his associates, about his family, about his friends, about his followers. With that information, the government can blackmail people into silence. The government can discriminatorily prosecute people for things they either have or have not done. The government could turn people into informants and just otherwise scare people away from fighting for the political change that they think that our society needs and which we may very well agree with. No government should accumulate so much information that it could easily and secretly discredit people who seek change. So now that the public is beginning to know the truth about surveillance, We have so many important and difficult decisions to make. When do systems of power make liberty possible, and when do they lead to oppression? How should we combat terrorism? How much surveillance and how much secrecy are compatible with democracy? Class of 2014, you are the ones who are going to help decide how to make this world a better place. In some cases, you will find that the solutions have been constrained by invisible decisions that have been made behind closed doors, and you will have to imagine what possibilities lie behind those spiky trees. In other cases, you'll find there are explicit limitations enforced by the full police power of the state, which you may nevertheless need to rebel against, the pool signs. Butt heads in any one of the good fights that need you. Do not be afraid to fail, but remember your successes. Try a lot of different flavors of ice cream. We have been waiting for you. We need your intelligence, your energy, your optimism. We need your perspective on the problems that have been intractable to my generation. Today, with your graduation from this wonderful school that I love so much, the world has become a better place. Congratulations to you, and welcome aboard.
So thank you, Jennifer. Now we have a performance by the New College Chorus, which has been bringing choral music to campus since 2005. The group is directed by Virginia Bray, who has been part of the New College community for many years. She has led the chorus since 2011 and previously had served as an accompanist since the group's founding. The chorus will perform an Irish love duet, arranged by Bradley Nelson, and the Seal Lullaby, composed by Eric Whitaker. A special note, two of the members of the chorus, Sophia Blair and Gary Baker, are graduating this evening. Please welcome them and their fellow members of the New College Chorus. Okay. Tim it is. Now I'd like to invite Timothy Duff, to come to the stage to talk to the graduating class. Where is he? Okay, Tim is right here. He's from Tampa. He plays bass in the New Cats Jazz Band. And he is inordinately fond of burritos and sushi. His AOC is in mathematics, always a good thing. His senior thesis, entitled Deformations, Discrete Sampling, and Robust Toric Ideals, employs new results in computational algebraic geometry, one of which Tim and his fellow students discovered and applies it to statistical problems. Last year, he received a Goldwater, which is one of the awards awarded to the nation's most promising students in science and mathematics. Next year, he will pursue a master's degree at Oxford University in the UK. And so, he's one of 2 new college students to win a Frost Scholarship, which pays the whole shot to Oxford. Congratulations, Tim, and welcome.
Hey. So it isn't easy to write a speech that is simultaneously original, thought-provoking, and entertaining, so please excuse me if I manage to accomplish none of the 3. I think it'd be substantially easier to parrot the voices of people before me, mostly who speak in terms of numbers and awards, which, not a bad thing, but I think it can be easy to sometimes forget the principal academic focus of the school, which was, given to it at its inception, and our wonderful commencement speaker already said it, but I think it merits saying again, that each individual is responsible in the last analysis for their education. And I hope I speak for some of us today if that promise wasn't at least somewhat upheld. So, I don't really have anything thought-provoking to say or any advice to give you. You can kind of pick your favorite cliche and go with it. But I'd like to offer maybe some reflections on the time I spent here. To borrow a phrase of late William Thurston, what we see in the promotional material is a terrific bit of salesmanship, but it doesn't come close to giving a complete picture of my experiences here. I've never been more impressed and inspired by the efforts of our students who devote their time to the selfless service of others. Some of you volunteer for organizations like Spark and Planned Parenthood, and it's really amazing that we live in a world where basic human rights are constantly under threat, even in America today. And it's also really hard to believe that there are so many injustices even in our backyard, and it's easy to overlook them, especially in a world that's run by Kickstarters and crowdsourcing. And those of you who've worked in setting up community gardens in Newtown and working at the Robert L. Taylor Community Center have really just amazed me with your selflessness. And I think more people need to know about this because it's so easy to forget. But only you can really know the difference you've made in people's lives by doing that. I've really learned a lot from everybody, mostly just in idle conversations with you. I've talked to, I think it's safe to say I've talked to almost everyone in this graduating class, and each one of you has offered some sort of unique insight that made me think about the world in a different way. And I really think it's the environment. And I think that when we see change in the environment, we start to ask questions and we start to get upset. And I think there's good reason for that. I think there are reasons to be attached to things that we find intellectually nurturing and safe. And so I'd encourage you, perhaps maybe in keeping with a certain theme for the evening, to be creative in the way that you address those problems. If you think the new promotional material needs some work, you should take a video of yourself juggling Four Winds statuettes and upload it to YouTube. If you think what Rick Scott has to say isn't nice, then you should write him a letter. And if you want more really nice evenings like this, where we're all down together at the Bay, then, and I know I'm not the first person to suggest this, but we should seriously bring some hammocks down to the Bay. That's it. Oh, that's the end of my speech.
Thanks, Tim. We'll see about the hammocks. Now the main event. Soon-to-be graduates, will you please stand up? So, by the authority vested in me, I hereby confer on each of you the degree of Bachelor of Arts from New College of Florida. And we'll call you to the stage.
Jacob A. Albanese. Matthew Lee Anderson. Carl E. Backen. David J. Bassick. David W. Baker. Gary G. Baker. Stephanie N. Bamberger. Eric Barganier. Bennett Daniel Bastian. Wesley A. Beggs. Lauren E. Bernier. Sean K. Binninger. Sophia V. Blair. Emily L. Bolleton. Noah S. Burlett. Noah Burlett. Mariah Bray. Oh, Dentro del canal de YouTube. Abigail R. Brennan. Jacob V. Bird. Melissa A. Campbell. Annie E. Carter. Vanessa Marie Chastain. Brendan Alexander Clark. Joseph F. Comer. Zoe Rose Curly Strauss. Nicholas V. Dougherty. Juliana Margot Tarrant Deer. Sarah E. Dietz. Shane T. Donpleson. Daniel Ducasi. Timothy Francis Elwin Duff. Kelly L. Dwyer. Emily D. Elbert. Josephine B. C. Evans. James L. Evelyn. Taylor L. Filorowski. Alexis Haley Echo Fisher. Grace M. Fisher. Candice Francis. Ashley Marie Frost. Bettina Paula Garofalo. Charles Gillig. Katie M. Gonzalez. Allison Elizabeth Gornick. Morgan Elizabeth Southwell Gurr. Lynn Guzman. Rachel A. Hensley. Daniel Lafayette Henderson. Robert Incapié. Kaylee S. Holchlander. Kelsey Paige Hunt Dolan. Ana Maria Usar. Dimitri S. Stoneman. Victoria Elizabeth Hara. Jody L. Johnson. Aaron Black Kent. Rosalind Dara Kishler. Robert Matthew Klinkle. Liat Krongrad. Daniel Joseph Lane. Kyle Ross Larson. Christopher Lay. Jesse L. LaSure. Michael Joseph Leone. Gracie Lesser. Michael T. Long. Chelsea J. Lucas. Thomas William Lewell. Tian Ma. Stephen Joseph Machusko Jr. Catherine Martini. Holly Arthur. Morgan N. McCabe. Kyle W. McCormick. Molly Catherine McCormick. Navin M. McGinnis. Taylor M. Meredith. Austin J. Mooney. Matthew S. Morgan. Helen Virginia Moscardini. Juliana G. Musheyev. Cade Doyle Needham. Tyler S. Neumann. Natalie Ann Neville. Alexander D. W. Nicolo. Danilia E. Nugent. Jared J. O'Connor. Pharrell Ann Ocasio. Andrea Alejandra Ortiz Sotelo. Grace Flanagan Otto. Nicole Alexandra Ouellette. Taylor Susan Parker. Teresa Marie Pascal. Michelle W. Patterson. Thomas E. Platey V. Philip Edward Pope. Gabriela Bianca Victoria Powell. Alexandra Quesada. Emily Mercedes Rich. Laura Emily Robinson. Dylan T. Robitaille. Corey Ray Rhoda. Jonah Santiago Pagan. Blair A. Sapp. Trey Christopher Surratt. Kyle W. Saunders. Melena Haley Schiff. Derek Shrubby Wharf. David K. Scrivener. Anthony Frederick Atesh Sherifsoy. Suzanne Setti. Elizabeth Claire Sheehy. Ryan A. Simonelli. Jonas P. Slackman. David C. Smith. Kelsey J. Smith. Mallory Shea Sneed. Caitlin A. Statz. Kyla M. Stevens. Matthew Michael Stevenson. Maya Taylor. Sam Thornton. Nikki Torres. James F. Tyre V. Madlena Verbeek. Margaret A. Vincent. Kenneth K. Ye Wong. Pear Warren. Wyatt C. Weisenberg. Alexandria C. Wells. Taylor Marie Welsh. Michelle Diane Wheat. Andrew L. Williams. Catherine Tondreau Williams. Nathan Wilson. Sean Rubel. Rebecca Elizabeth Walker. Alexander Wiley. Richard Andrew Zay II.
So, at this time, it is appropriate to congratulate the newly graduated students. Let's give them a well-deserved round of applause. And graduates, it's appropriate for you to express your appreciation of the faculty, their families, and all who have supported them in progress towards graduation. Please. And please join me in thanking Physical Plant, Student Affairs, the Office of the President, the New College Chorus, and the Manatee High School Band. Thank you. Now, will the platform party, faculty, and graduates please stand for the recessional? And could the others await until they've got out?